This $1 million chess piece, one of the 5 pieces that are still missing from the most precious ancient chessboard in the world, has recently been discovered and sold, and there might still be 4 more of them hiding out there, waiting to be found. The piece is part of the Lewis Chessmen, one of the most famous chess sets in the world, which you may recognize from books and films such as the Harry Potter franchise. The set has been on display in the British Museum since the 1800s, and the many mysteries and enigmas behind its discovery and origin have piqued the curiosity of millions of visitors over the years. Made from walrus ivory and whale teeth over 800 years ago, they were discovered buried on a remote Scottish island around 1830. Today, the set is one of the most iconic and well-preserved symbols of medieval Europe's culture. However, it was never fully complete because 5 pieces have remained mysteriously missing ever since the museum acquired them. That is, until very recently, when one of them made an incredible reappearance in Scotland and was sold for $1 million. So, how did such an invaluable treasure end up buried there? Who buried it? And for what? But most importantly, what happened to the missing pieces? And is there still a chance that the last 4 are out there? Stick until the end to find out. And now, let's dive into the mysteries of the Lewis Chessmen. The treasure was allegedly discovered buried on the Isle of Lewis, a remote island in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland around 1830. The reason behind the presence of such a valuable hoard on this isolated piece of land is a matter of speculation, and only educated guesses and a knowledge of history can get us closer to the actual events. The types of characters they depict and the way they are dressed indicate that they were most probably crafted in the early 1200s, somewhere in Norway or Iceland. The fact that they're made from walrus ivory and whale teeth suggests that they were meant to be owned by a wealthy individual or a member of royalty. However, at the time, Lewis was mostly populated by Viking settlers. It is, therefore, no surprise that one of the prevailing explanations for their presence there is that a Viking warrior who had gone on a raid somewhere in Scandinavia stole the set and buried it there for later retrieval, but, for unknown reasons, was unable to do so. But it could also be that a merchant ship was caught in a storm and had to land on the island. The merchant, who didn't want to pay landing taxes, decided to hide his loot, but could not pick it up afterward. Whatever the reason for their presence on the island, the real intrigue lies in the events surrounding their enigmatic discovery, which is where we might find clues as to what happened to the missing pieces. Many conflicting accounts exist of what exactly happened on the day of their discovery. One of the most prevailing comes from a man named Donald Morrison, a storyteller who used to reside on the island in the 1800s. He explained that a local farmer named Malcolm MacLeod discovered the pieces while looking after his cattle somewhere around the Bay of Uig, a vast beach area on the southwestern side of the island. According to Morrison, one of MacLeod's cows disturbed the soil, which revealed the figures and made him flee as he feared they might be gnomes or devils, only to come back later to retrieve them. But what did he do with them after finding them? Was the set complete, or were some pieces already missing? Did he keep some for himself? Unfortunately, those questions remain, as Donald Morrison's story is impossible to verify. No one was ever able to find Malcolm MacLeod or ask him questions about his supposed discovery. Very little is known about the man other than that he might have been a resident of a now abandoned settlement near Uig named Peigin Domhnall, or Penny Donald. However, fortunately for us, another version of the account seems to get us closer to the truth. It comes from the first ever documented mention of the treasure, which appeared in the Scotsman newspaper in 1831, and which contradicts Morrison's story. The article states that a nun named Peasant discovered the hoard below the ruins of a medieval-time nunnery called Taiginan Kailiashan Duba, or the House of the Black Women. According to this story, the peasant found the pieces in a large underground stone chamber. The location of the nunnery can be traced on local maps, and its ruins still exist today. However, the underground chamber has not been found yet, and it is possible that it has since collapsed. The nunnery and the chamber would have existed in Mealasta, a coastal area 10 kilometers south of Uig Bay. This account seems more plausible, as Mealasta used to be an important medieval settlement and traces of Viking communities have also been discovered there. But what exactly did he find in that chamber? Was the treasure incomplete when he first saw it? Let's investigate deeper and try to find some answers. The newspaper article reports that the peasant who found the treasure sold it to Roderick Ryrie, a merchant from the island, who then brought it to Edinburgh to try and sell it. While in Edinburgh, he presented the trove to the Society of Antiquaries of Scotland. There, he had a total of 73 chess pieces, making up 4 almost complete chess sets. But interestingly, 5 pieces were already missing, and those were 1 knight and 4 warders, in addition to 45 pawns. So why were these pieces not present when Roderick Ryrie presented the treasure in Edinburgh? No records of previous transactions were found, and no one seems to have asked him why the sets were incomplete. The prevailing explanation was that they were missing from the moment they were found, or were too damaged for the peasant to recover them. They were thought to have been lost to history, with no hope of recovering them. That is, until 2019, when one of the missing warders made an incredible reappearance in Scotland. This historical event made headlines worldwide, and someone eventually bought it for $1 million. But where had the treasure been hiding, and how did it not reappear earlier? The craziest thing is that it had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Here is how it happened. In May 2019, a man from Edinburgh, who decided to remain anonymous, showed up at an antique appraiser's shop in London with a box full of old objects that he had inherited from his deceased mother. He was clueless about their value and wanted to know whether they were worth anything. The appraiser started going through the objects one by one, with nothing really catching his attention. That is until he picked up an old, worn-out chess piece depicting a medieval warrior. The appraiser could not believe what he was seeing, and immediately recognized it as being part of the Lewis Chessmen. In disbelief, he wondered how this piece, thought to have been lost to history, had ended up in this man's box of junk. The appraiser proceeded to ask questions about the object's provenance. The anonymous man explained that his family had owned it for 55 years, ever since his grandfather had bought it from an antique store back in 1964 for just $5. He was obviously unaware of the object's exceptional historical significance and kept it in his home as a decoration. When his grandfather died, the man's mother inherited the Chessmen. She kept it in her bedside drawer her whole life, believing that it was special, and thought that perhaps it could even have had some magical significance. The anonymous man got the piece when his mother passed away, and he was now in shock to learn that such a significant treasure had been in his family for so long. The journey of the rediscovered piece since its discovery on the Isle of Lewis remains unknown. It was most probably sold by Roderick Ryrie to a private collector, or maybe he gifted it to someone. Its damaged and worn condition suggests it passed through various hands until its origin was forgotten, eventually finding its way into the inventory of an unsuspecting Scottish antique dealer. The warder was then put up for auction, where it was acquired by an anonymous collector for an impressive £735,000 or $927,000, forever changing the life of the son whose grandfather had bought a piece of history for just $5 decades ago. The fact that this warder was rediscovered so recently proves that at least some of the missing pieces were part of the treasure when it was originally found. The fact that they're made from ivory gives them inherent value, suggesting that they might still be in someone's collection somewhere out there. Remember, 3 warders, 1 knight, and 45 intricately carved pawns are still missing. If rediscovered, depending on their condition, their value could easily surpass $1 million. Perhaps the pieces lie in wait, concealed within the shadows, awaiting their moment of revelation. So take notes next time you visit the British Museum, and keep a vigilant eye when you're in the aisles of antique stores, for who knows what treasures await your discovery.